Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to Tekpon. Today our guest is Pedro. Hello.
Hey Christian, glad to be here.
Very nice to meet you. I'll let you present yourself.
So I help SaaS companies with their messaging and positioning. The goal is to figure out how we can squeeze as many conversions as possible, as much revenue as possible out of the traffic they already have, how to position themselves as the best tool out there for what they do, because it's basically is the founders always have, or the people in the team always have a way where their product is better, right? Or a way that they want to communicate their product, but they always struggle to get other people to see it, right? So they know internally how they want to be perceived, but then they struggle how to get other people to see it. So that's more or less what I help clients fix, and then squeeze as much revenue as we can out of the traffic they have, right? So that's the goal.
Mm-hmm. And apart from this, what do you think are the top 3 mistakes that founders make when trying to market their SaaS?
Yeah, it's hard to think about just 3 in the first place, right? So
Okay.
I think the main there are a lot of mistakes that they do marketing wise. So one is for example, on the messaging side, they always maybe they focus on issues that are not necessarily the underlying issues that people want to see, on the website when they're making a decision, right, in order to sign up. So that's something they need to pay really close attention to make sure that, for example, I have a client that has an interior design tool, a tool for project management for interior design projects. That's what I mean. And what happens is they're reporting a lot of emphasis on the reports that were being built out. But the underlying issue that people want to see is that they don't want to review the reports a million times over, because they have to review it 3 times. They spend too much time on it. If they make a mistake, they miss a deadline. And if they spend too much time on it, they cannot take on many more projects, right? So what they want is they want something that is mistake-free. They can help them get more projects. It means they make way more money, and they way stress-free, right? So this is just a tool where you can send reports. You can gather a bunch of items like lamps and beds and all that stuff for a redesign of a house, and then make sure that you don't order anything wrong, right? So that is the underlying issue. That's probably mistake number 1 in making sure that those are the things that you talk about. You talk about the things that get people to buy in the first place, right? Probably the second issue might be looking at competitors all the time, right? What are they doing? The big companies, what are they, even if they're not competitors, what are they doing in terms of messaging or website or channels or whatever, right? You have to focus on the stage you're at the moment, because what works now might not work in the future, and so on and so forth. It tends to be a big issue, and that's why also I usually tear down companies, websites of big companies, and 99% of the time they're really bad because they have the brand awareness, right? They have the brand awareness to be able to afford to not optimize it, or sometimes I was covering Asana the other day. I think they're not even profitable. Right, so they can afford to have bad messaging. They spend millions acquiring free users, and they can focus on revenue later, right? That's another thing. And probably the last one is maybe how they think about product market fits. The way I would define it is once you're able to have 1 or 2 marketing channels that you can acquire customers consistently, even if they're not fully optimized, right? Because people think about product market fit as soon as they get 100 customers or something. I would rather have a place where I know I can find customers all the time, because the ease of finding a customer tends to be a problem for SaaS companies. And maybe as a bonus one is discarding or overestimating a few channels, right? So they might think everyone needs to do content marketing, or they might think outbound just doesn't work. Each niche kind of has a different way to reaching out to customers. The rule of thumb is just be whatever your customers are. And then take it from there. That's how you find the best channel, because that's definitely an issue.
Do you also have a team?
Yeah, in my case, I do have a team. As people that help me with managing my contents. Also, recently, kind of help provide feedback to clients, because what I do in particular is I guide clients on what are the opportunities they have, how to fix them. We actually tell them, even sometimes section by section, what they should redo. On the landing pages, insanely actionable feedback. They essentially get access to me Monday through Friday. We always have tweaks, plans. It's you have a guy on the outside telling you how to constantly make more money out of the way you're selling your SaaS. That's more or less how it works. And now I just have another guy to help me do that. provide a different perspective, find more opportunities, make the support even faster. It's more of the same, really.
Mm-hmm. And can you share with us some more companies that you've helped?
Yeah, I helped several companies before. What are you looking in particular, like a story, like
some interesting stories, some unique stories.
So one thing that I was really good at, I'll talk about in podcasts all the time, is I've done like a webinar with Barometrics, like I think it was like 2 or 3 years back. Mm-hmm. It was for us to like rewrite the Barometrics Recover page live on a webinar. And we essentially rewrote it. Obviously, we didn't do the images. We just said, this is what the image should say. And then we focused a lot on the problem and how much money people are losing. And I'll tell you the before and after in a second, right? And we wrote it live. We wrote it in like less than 90 minutes. I still have the video on YouTube as well. And then we used a formula that I also like share a lot. It's like a public formula, like the landing page formula I use for clients. That is public. You guys can see it and stuff like that. So we took that, we wrote it live, and then they got like insane results out of it, right? So people were coming back to buy the tool because it was an add-on. So people that churn were coming back to the normal tool to buy it as an add-on. Previously, they were selling it with demos. Now people are just buying it without them telling anything. And it was like a game changer. And the reason why it was a game changer is because first, they were saying it was a tool to fix failed payments, right? So first they said, hey, how it came across is it's like an email that is going to send a few emails to get people to pay back the money that they haven't paid because their credit card expired or something, right? And what we did before is we quantify the issue, right? So what we want to do is we want to say, how big is the result that we provide? Why are we better than other tools or the current thing that they're using to fix the problem? And how easy it is to get started, right? And risk-free, right? So we answer all of those. Those are the big pillars. So one, we said we quantify the problem, right? So we said that you're losing around 90% of your MRR every month due to failed payments. So then they do the math. Hey, if I'm making 100K a month, that means I'm losing 10K a month, almost 10K a month with failed payments. I need to fix that. Makes the problem bigger. Then we said that there's no other solution to easily fix it, right? Because Stripe doesn't really have it, and then doing it manually is just the cost doesn't offset the benefits, right? Doesn't make sense. And then why is it risk-free? Because it's something that you turn on in Barometrics. It already has the templates to ask for the money back. It automatically builds a paywall and automatically builds a pop-up where you can update your card, right? So it's something you implement. You only pay based on the money you recover. So it's totally risk-free. You make a bunch of money, you set it up once and forget about it, and you only pay based on what you make, right? So it makes it as irresistible as possible. That's what we want, right? I have like a few other stories and stuff to think about it, or if you have like other questions about it and stuff like that.
Sure. I know this is not something public, but how do you do your pricing? Is it success-based or how does it work?
Yeah, the way I'm doing pricing right now is I'm working with clients like long-term. It's more or less like a retainer. And the pricing is the same for every client at the moment. Yes, obviously you could like charge more, and that's what I would obviously advise SaaS companies to do in terms of like charging more of like for bigger companies, finding better value for them and stuff like that. In my case, the companies are more or less similar to them, and I don't want to make it seem like unjust because I know it's going to be like the same offering. Everything is like really streamlined. We know how to get results for clients, so it's not going to be different. So I want to make the pricing necessarily fair. What I do instead is just I increase it over time, right? Yeah. So let's say at this point is X a year, and then I'll increase it to like 10% or 20% or whatever, right? So that's what I'm going to be doing. Same price for every client, super fair. And my goal, whenever I'm chatting with a SaaS company, is to say, can I give them a 5 to 10x ROI within like a few months? So they make a lot of money out of it. They're really happy. They save a bunch of time because lots of the stuff they would probably spend like 6 months doing, even if they don't realize it at the beginning, how much time they can actually take if they don't have someone on the outside. So I save them a bunch of time and make them a bunch of money. That's what I'm concerned about, giving them a really good ROI, and then the rest is all good.
Yeah, and it's win-win.
Yeah, totally. That's what I look for, win-win in any situation.
Great. And how big are the companies usually? How many employees?
So in terms of employees, can be like a little bit all over the place. They tend to be like small. So like 10 to 50 employees, more or less. More on the 20, 30 employees max. So it's always between like 10, let's say I'll probably say 10 to 20, like 80% of the time. And I obviously had a way bigger companies than that, but I honestly found that it's a little bit hard to get people to make big changes. Because like when I work with a client, I want to make the messaging as irresistible as possible. That means big changes. That means we're going all in terms of making everything as optimized as possible. And it does work.
The time.
Yeah, it works. It works super well. But then when the bigger the company, the more opinions there are. And to be honest, I'm not too good with opinions, so my process doesn't work that well. Or they don't like that process too much. So that's normally the type of clients I stick for. And yeah, they usually get the traffic from inbounds because it means that people are looking for their stuff. When we change it's like they can see the results faster. It doesn't mean that I don't have like clients that also do outbound as well. I do have, but usually they have like a higher lifetime value, so it compensates for the lower volume and ends up being the same, right? So like I said before, as long as they get an insanely good ROI and we find opportunities to make that happen like fairly easy for them, then I can help them out, right? But it's more on the inbound side, sometimes more focused on product-led growth. It's like a 80-20 type thing.
Are you planning to launch a SaaS yourself in the future?
Yeah, so I do have I definitely have a plan around that. So first, I want to make sure that I become better at hiring, better at managing my time, better at setting goals, right? So what I want to do is establish a foundation for myself to make around probably around 1 to 2 million a year is when I want to diversify like somewhere else, or maybe like beyond that, because it will force me at being like better at sales, better at managing people, better at building a team, all the stuff that are small things that SaaS companies require. Because I'm not technical, right? So I need to manage my team. I need to make sure that I define like a product roadmap and all that stuff, which I focus on one very specific skill, right? The CRO side, the messaging and the positioning side. I know how to take one company and make and be able to add like 200, 300K in revenue based on the tweaks we make. That I totally know. But then what about all these other skills around managing people and all that stuff? So I'll rather go through the consulting routes like I'm doing now, scale to more or less 1 or 2 million a year. That's what I'm guessing it is. Once I get there, I might change my mind what the actual number is. And then now that I'm going to have way more skills because I forced myself to learn it first before diversifying, then I'm probably going to buy a SaaS company instead of starting from scratch because I don't like starting from scratch, right? Because I don't like the trial and error of finding channels. I'll rather just have buy a company that has like 1 or 2 marketing channels that are working well, figuring out how can I double the revenue based on the traffic they already have, and forget about it and maybe sell it again or just keep it.
Makes sense.
Streamline the costs some way. Maybe
niche there down. Are a lot of startups marketplace right now, so you can find one easily.
Yeah, and, but I definitely see myself doing it.
Yeah. And are you also planning on being an advisor in some SaaS companies?
I mean, the type of role that I have at the moment is like similar to an advisor, but it's like way more actionable. So I'm not sure what would the benefit be for me in a SaaS company to be an advisor. I'm like always like pretty involved.
They can get you some shares in the company, as I know it works.
Yeah, but like that's the thing. Like the unlikelihood of them becoming exiting the company is like so low. That's why I'm not sure if it'll be worth it. Maybe at some point I'll look back at this and think I was totally an idiot for not doing it. But then I guess I'm going to learn that over time. I think I'll rather just build my own business and then just acquiring a SaaS company. I think it's cool. And then doubling its business and then doing rinse and repeat.
And I'd love to hear your story. So how did you get started in SaaS marketing?
So it was quite a weird story. So I always had this interest in tech and business and all that stuff since I was a kid because my grandfather was an entrepreneur, even though it wasn't like related at all. I just aimed to be like him. And then I was always interested in tech. I always thought, hey, these guys don't really know how to optimize this stuff. They're not really optimizing for more usage and stuff like that. Because at the time I was looking at it from a mobile app perspective. because those were the things that I was interested at the time, probably like 7 or 8 years ago. And I casually just wanted to learn more about them and how they were promoted and which ones were successful and monetizing strategies, because at the time they're barely monetizing them. We're just growing them like crazy. And then, I started publishing a few designs on how I would optimize like a few apps and websites and stuff like that. And then I started getting a few design clients. Then over time, I realized that I didn't want to do apps. I wanted to do like websites instead. I always doubled down on B2B SaaS in that case from that point on. And then I also realized that it didn't make sense for me to do everything for the clients, because what would happen is I would get them a really good result, and then they would either stagnate or go back down because they didn't know why it worked in the first place. Right?
Okay.
I was the only one with the insights to do it. So there was this clicking point where I realized that I was the perfect guy to take the shareholders, product people, CEO, and all that stuff, all the insights they have, and compile it into a message that converted really well. So I realized over time that I wasn't much of a designer, and I kind of think it's a bit of a commodity these days, to realizing that. And then that's what I doubled down on for the past like 5 years or so. I've only been doing consulting, right? So that was what I was naturally good at, and that's what I doubled down on. Always the same niche as well, because I stick to B2B SaaS. I'm not dabbling in a million niches.
Awesome. And what can people learn from you by following on LinkedIn, on YouTube? You have a YouTube channel, as you mentioned. What can they learn?
So they can learn like a lot of different things. I do like a series where I tear down like big SaaS landing pages of big SaaS companies. What did they do wrong? How I would improve them? Like good examples, bad examples. Let's be honest, like 80% of the time is like bad examples and how I would fix them, because they're just like hard to find. Man, I was telling this to someone in my team the other day. Once you find the issues, man, you cannot look at any page again and say it's good. You just find issues. It just changes your perspective. You cannot
unsee it. Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot unsee it. So that's one thing. Then we have like a lot of videos around making your offer, like as a SaaS company, as irresistible as possible. Like how to make sure that you always win the comparison, because people are always comparing you between different tools, or even pen and paper, or even in spreadsheets, or even hiring someone else, right? People are literally comparing you to everything else. So you want to make sure they want to win that comparison. So a lot of also like the psychology around it and all that stuff. I have like a bunch of videos, tutorials, templates that I share, especially on LinkedIn as well. Like literally templates that I use with my clients. I share them on LinkedIn as well, because I want people to try them. I want to be like this, at some point, the ultimate vision to be almost like almost like the lean startup movement, but for landing pages, where it's that game changing. So I just share it. People can implement it. I've seen many people that use my formula before. And then a good enough percentage of people just say, hey, I'll rather you help me do it instead, right? So
you have a great mentality. I love it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite software?
My favorite software, I would say, the one I use the most is probably like Loom.
Loom, okay.
I love Circle because I think community is like here to stay. And the way, like, I think Circle updates their stuff like really often, because I'm one of their customers. They're always updating stuff, always fixing bugs. Like they literally like weekly. They're always taking care of their customers. So I really like that. And a software that I use that is actually like super simple is CleanShot X for Mac. Man, I use that stuff every day. Like to like screenshots my clients' pages and stuff they're doing and tweaks they're doing, annotating it and sending it over. They can take that and make the change and implement it and get the result like really fast. Man, I use that all day, every day for everything. I just love that thing. And it's an interesting model. They started off with a lifetime deal to get the revenue up and to finance the developments. And now the development is quite easy. It's mostly fixing bugs. Now they just focus on the cloud storage. Okay.
And can you share with us 3 mistakes when doing landing pages and 3 fixes that you see? So most common, let's say.
So probably the first thing is also comes back to not spending so for example, when I'm helping a client redo a landing page, we literally spend 80% of the time on a one-page document, figuring out what are the problems that the tool fixes, how exactly does it work, and like literally step by step, how the tool can make everything that they do on a daily basis either more streamlined, automated in the first place, eliminated in the first place, like make it seem 10 times better, not 10% better, because people don't buy stuff that is 10% better than what they're using. They just don't.
Yes.
Then all the objections they have, all the questions that are keeping them from signing up, we list them out and we address them before we even think about headlines or the structure or what the images should be. None of that. We think about that like in the last 10% of the project, right? And the landing pages still look like amazing. It's just so the better we define it, it just means we need 0 iterations during the design process because everything is crazy well defined, right? So we define that really well.
You reminded me of that code that if I had to solve a problem, I'd spend 80% of the time defining it.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I always advise clients, and that's what I do with them. Man, it saves us a ton of time, and then we use those insights to optimize the ads if needed, or sometimes even for contents. Like you can reuse those insights a million times. It's just super useful. So exactly like you said, probably spend 80% of the time defining what we offer in the first place, because the form of that one-page stuff that I have before the client realizes it, like actually each section turns into a section on the landing page formula I use with clients. So before they know it, they are actually defining their page without realizing it, right? So then we define the structure. So by structure, I mean we have X amount of sections. This is what we want to say in this section. This is what we want to say in this section without thinking about headlines. Just what do we want them to understand from this, right? After that, based on what they want to understand, these are the type of headline we could use. And then to think about the images, we'll figure out what type of image would support the headline that we talked about. Before you know it, to define the entire thing. It's way easier. You never get stuck writing it because you're just defining one thing at a time. So there's no reason to get stuck, because if you try to write the headlines and then think about the order and then think about the images, you're going to forget half the things. It's going to be a total mess, and it's going to take way too long, right? So that's mistake number 1. Mistakes number 2 is obviously looking at what other people are doing. Right? That's like a big issue. It's going to come a billion times. And then number 3 is thinking you have to redo everything. Like, I cannot tell you how many companies come to me and say they want to redo 30 pages. Like, doesn't make any sense. They look at the top 5 pages, or the ones that are just driving the conversions, which most likely are the home page, or sometimes if you have comparison pages, if you're doing like competitor ads, or the pricing. Pricing is a big one that people don't pay too much attention to, because it's one of the last steps before people decide to sign up, or one of the first things they check to compare it to others. Even if your pricing is higher, there's always ways to make it seem more valuable. So the price is just one of the variables. So and then the free trial sign up page, for example, that's like one of the last steps for signing up. A lot of these little things is always like the 80-20, because you spend like 6 months to design your website. What else could you be doing? This doesn't make sense. Just focus on the top 5 pages. Absolutely. And even if you have like similar pages, just create a template for them and optimize them, and then spend the rest of the time, I don't know, maybe doing more iterations out of the same pages, optimize them further, maybe trying to optimize the revenue per customer. Because one thing that I do with clients as well is we explain the value so well, and we try to stand out so much from competitors that we're able to charge more, right? So usually that's the second thing we do right away. Or maybe if they are in the middle plan, how do we upsell them to the next plan? Because messaging is all about selling them on the value of taking the next step. Maybe the value, maybe you can think of that as the value of trying out the product. Or once they try out the product, the value of buying it. Or once they buy the middle plan, the value of upgrading, right? Or the value of staying, or the value of referring it to someone else, right? It's always selling them on the value. So this is what messaging and positioning is all about, right? So this is what I would focus on. That's what I would say. Don't always think about the problems and who you're fixing and defining it really well before you even start the page. Don't look at competitors or big companies. Just ignore those. And then like the last one, which is don't spend too much time on it to redesign 1 million pages, because it doesn't make any sense. It's too much work too.
You shared some great insights. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I'm truly grateful. Thank you for helping the community.
Yeah, no worries. Glad to be here.